Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Legion Chalk Talk. This is Scott, your host. And today I have with me Justin Estes. Justin comes to us from 3Q Fitness in Garland. And he has been a coach at 3Q for 4 years as a full-time coach. He's been coaching for 6 years. He also runs the youth empowerment program at 3Q. And recently he was brought on to develop the Level Method Lite programming. So super excited to talk to him about that. And I've gotten to know Justin over the last probably year and a half. And I really enjoy him. I really enjoy his view on things. And one thing I know about him, he is very nerdy when it comes to programming. So that might have a little bit to do with why he's part of the Level Method team at this point. Welcome to the show, Justin.
Man, thanks for having me. It's good to be on.
Yeah. So we just introduced recently our Level Method Lite, and I think most people have no idea what it is, and we'll get into that. But tell us a little bit of your background in the coaching world. Tell us what you've done, what you've been working on, and what brings you to this moment here.
Yeah, so I played two sports in college at a small D2 in Oklahoma, and I found 3Q Fitness CrossFit Garland. I found Robert, our owner, through just kind of necessity, needing to do some things over the summer, and fell in love with moving better. I thought you just had to be strong. I didn't know you could actually move efficiently. And then the more I worked in my own movement, the more I just became obsessed with it, to the point where I was working full time at the city of Dallas in Parks and Rec. And I was here in the morning from like 3:30 to about 7:30, go to work, come back in the evening from like 5 to 9, training clients, working with like at first baseball athletes. I've always done stuff with kids. So just fell in love with that aspect of training young athletes, training kids that just need to be more efficient. And then it's kind of rolled into coaching full time, running personal training clients here, running our youth empowerment program, working with our performance athletes, and then helping develop some different things that we just do here. And then now just kind of getting I'd say the past 3 years really diving into programming, trying to get any certification I can. Right now I'm in the middle of my OPEX CCP. But I've done, like, Tim Thackeray has a program design course that I've gone through a couple iterations of that. And if it's program related, I'm going to like eat that up and soak that up. And like, I'm like all things strength and conditioning, like I'm all about it. So.
Yeah, several things I want to mention. First of all, you work for an incredible person, Robert. I've gotten to know him over the last 2 years, and he is one of those guys you want to have in your book. So you're working for an incredible person, and anybody who goes to that gym is very blessed. I just think that there's a lot of the staff there. I mean, the people you work with just blow me away. And so big shout out to you guys for running an impeccable program and multiple programs. And then the moving into programming, doing the OPEX thing. And I'm sure Nathan in himself is giving you a whole new education as he can with the time. But we're super excited. And I remember I came and visited you guys here in Garland, and I'm like 45 minutes away, I think. And so I came and drove there a couple of months ago to talk to you about a different podcast that I record. And that's when we started talking programming, and I got on the phone with Nathan right after. I'm like, hey, look, Justin is a killer dude, and you want to talk to him. And so here we are. Like, it happened before I even knew anything. I think I texted you and like, hey, you need to talk with Nathan. I was trying to make those connections. So super excited that worked out. I'm glad that the connections were there. And so tell us a little bit about what you are doing, because I think, like me included, I've asked you some super basic questions, like what in the world is it? So Level Method Lite, go for it, man.
So an easy way to describe it would be like a boot camp style program, but it's not your typical boot camp style program, if that makes sense. It was created out of a necessity for us. We started finding that, especially when we implemented level method, for one, I think probably, and if you're listening to this podcast, like you obviously, would agree on some levels to this, but I think level method as a program, as a methodology, whatever you want to call it, there's nothing really out there like it. You're solving a lot of problems for any coach. Yes, we can all scale appropriately, all those things, but instead of now having, maybe, let's say you run 6 classes in a day, all 6 coaches might scale differently. It might do the warm-ups differently, all those things. But now your athletes have a plan, have a process. And you mentioned Robert. Robert was an engineer. He went to MIT. I feel like he's the smartest dude I've ever known in my entire life. And learning from him, programming really is just reverse engineering people's goals.
Right.
It's very meticulous and all those things. So we ended up having this little gap where, like, I feel like the white and yellow level apply to a lot of people, but what ends up happening is, because of people's training age, an hour-long class isn't the right fit for them oftentimes.
Yeah.
And we started having people that just, they could do it, but now you have 60 minutes of almost discouragement, which in my head is weird, and in your head I'm sure is weird too, because it's like, we train because we want to be better than we were the day before, but not everybody has that mindset, and a lot of people just want to feel good. So then we also found a situation where we had some members who work for our local chamber of commerce that wanted to join our gym, but our class times didn't work because they're helping small businesses grow. So our off hours are their on hours, and
Right.
vice versa.
Right.
And so we're like, well, what do we do? And like, well, we could spare 30 minutes at lunch. So we had a couple ladies that, one of them at one point in time was wheelchair bound. Another lady was doing personal training, but she started to get to a point where financially she couldn't afford to do it as consistently as she wanted to. And then we had this other group of people that just needed 30 minutes at lunch. And we just said, let's just like do something for them. Let's do a 30-minute interval class, and let's just roll with that. And then we found that in those 30 minutes, we could be really, really intentional about their time and use it as a stepping point to get them into our hour-long class. And so that's eventually what ended up happening. So we didn't call it Level Method Lite at first. We just called it like our intense cardio class. Level Method Lite rolls a little bit easier. So I like that labeling. But it's filled a lot of gaps for us in the last maybe year and a half. And at one point we used it for a bunch of like moms that we trained, which, if you're a mom and you're listening and you're getting offended, I'm not saying that to like offend anybody, but so one of the programs we had at our business is we have a volleyball performance training program called Jump Train. And we used to do that remotely at a place in Richardson, Plano area. And there's this big volleyball complex. And in the back, they kind of had a small gym. And we would train the girls before they went to practice. So they would do a 30-minute session with us. Then they do their 90-minute practice. And this club was seeing a lot of results. And then we ended up seeing these gaps between training sessions. And there was a group of moms that wanted to train, and they only had 30 minutes. And we were like, okay, well, let's do something there. So it's kind of been an evolution of this program for, I want to say, maybe like the last 5 years or so. But in the last year and a half, with the implementation of level method in this, it's been an awesome kind of marriage.
Yeah, I think you tapped into something I don't think I'd made the connection with yet, is like, why do we need this? Like, and I think you just very eloquently listed, like, there's mothers who don't maybe have as much time. There's people who are their fitness level are keeping them, like, the hour is atrocious, and I remember when I owned my affiliate, kind of the same idea, but I just took them on as personal training, but we would lose them if they couldn't afford that. And that's a really good gap to fill, because we all know that personal training is a great way to take people. We're going to get the most results from them. We can deliver the best service possible, but it can be prohibitive in cost for some folks. So did
Absolutely.
you find how was the engagement level once you started this 30-minute lunch? What kind of differences did you see in people's advancement in health and fitness and attitude? And did you see changes in that?
Well, it starts off with what you just alluded to, the price point, obviously, because it's a 30-minute class and it's a group class. I'm going to backstep and I'm going to answer your question. So
Great. Good.
I like the connection you made with personal training. I'm in charge of the sales here at our gym, and we're getting quite a few leads a month. And when you have the people and they come in, you qualify your lead, you sit down, you have the conversation with them, you do all the intake stuff. You figure out what their goals are, and you start to in your head say, oh man, this 60-minute class is going to be rough. Like, this person's not going to be able to hang. Then you do the fitness assessment, and you're like, whoo, shoot, it just took you 15 minutes to get through this lactic tolerance test. And we did it at yellow 1, or we did it at white, and oh man.
Yeah.
And then you're left with this whole thing where, like, on average, most CrossFit affiliates or most gyms that are going to be on this podcast listening to this, I would say your membership ranges from 150 to maybe 225 a month. And most people can hang with that. Starbucks every day. But now you tell them, you don't qualify for this. And they know it because they went through it. They see the times on the board. And now you're going to say, but you can do PT and it's, $50 for the hour. It's, $80 for the hour. It's this. And they're like, well, how often should I train? And then you're maybe telling them they can probably afford to see you once a week. And that sucks. So like that engagement piece, we have these conversations with these people on the front end, and they automatically feel like they're not being sold to, because you tell them, you say, I think personal training is a great option. However, we have this other class that I think you'd be a great fit for. And based on our conversation, like finance, like the financial investment is going to be an issue. So this is actually going to be a little bit more affordable than even our CrossFit program. So I think this is a great place to start. So then already they're like feeling relieved, like, oh, thank goodness. And then that class became its own little community, and not like in like an elitist sense, or like you can't sit with us, we wear pink on Wednesdays kind of thing. But it was you like that Mean Girls reference?
Yeah.
But they just became a super tight knit crew. They were texting each other all the time. If like Susan didn't show up to work out, then Liz, she already knew. She was like telling us like, hey, Susan's got, her doctor's appointment. She's going to be here tomorrow or whatever. Like, they already knew what was going on in each other's lives. And it was pretty cool because it was a smaller group. They were able to make connections a lot easier. And because you have to show up differently in a 30-minute class, like you can't have your coffee cup in hand, which I don't recommend anyone coach that way. But I mean, like, you don't have an hour to tell a 2-minute story about your day. They come in, you got to be on. So the fact that you're on, you're engaging them the whole time. So it just draws a lot of like psychologically, like they're already getting that physical engagement, psychological engagement. Then when they're done, they're what we call like in state. So they're in state to learn, they're in state for all these things. And it just becomes a much more efficient 30 minutes. And I just went off on a bunch of tangents.
No, it makes complete sense, because I think a lot of people would say, well, how does this work? It's such little time. But the thing is we can't be so ingrained in the way that we've always done it that we forget that even 30 minutes of movement for people is 30 minutes more than they were doing before they came to you. Right. And that's a game changer for some people. And then the other thing that I wanted to add was, like, you can, and if even if they're a better fit and they have the financials, now you're even in a better situation. Like they can kind of match what normal CrossFit is. Maybe they were planning on that price. Mm-hmm. And then you could say, like, look, we can do this class, and then we'll do like one PT session every 2 weeks, and that will be perfect. Absolutely. Right. So there's always that opportunity. And once people are introduced into a PT type environment, I think a lot of times they're like, wow, this is really cool. I want to keep doing it. They'll figure out a way. So I think that lends to a ton of opportunities. And I think basically what you're saying is sometimes we have to put away, I'm extrapolating this really far extrapolation. We have to put away the way that we think the class should run and look at it from a way that is meeting the needs of a certain population.
Yeah, exactly. It's just about filling a gap in your community. Yep. And not everyone's a good fit right now today for your, CrossFit class. And then the other important thing about this is it's not mini CrossFit. It's not like
that's
CrossFit cut in half, and some days the movements will be kind of similar. There are some days that the programming for Level Method is really, really like fits perfectly in this time slot, and you can do a condensed warm up. Yep. You can change the barbell out, all that stuff. But I want to say those girls in the mom class, I don't think they ever used a barbell. And then in the last year and a half, we only used a barbell after we found out that the people in the class were leveled up to a point that we did level testing. They wanted to be a part of it.
That's awesome.
And the first time they did it, we had like yellow 1, yellow 2, or like the highest. Then the next time we did it, we had one girl that was like orange 3. We had another lady that was like orange 2. And they were like, oh shoot, like I kind of want to learn how to do this clean and jerk thing. I kind of want to learn how to. And so then we were like, well, let's progress into jumping into class. So
that's
it
incredible.
was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. You're giving them a really great stepping stone. So you're taking away the barrier of time. You're taking away the barrier of that nervousness. And you're taking away the barrier of killing them over an hour, what they feel is like torture over an hour, and condensing it down to 30 minutes, giving them a positive experience. But you're moving them forward, most of them forward in a place where they will ascend into a regular class if they want.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's awesome. So tell me, how do you program? Like, you're creating this program for Level Method. So is it 6 levels of a 30-minute workout? Like, lay that out.
So right now it's 2. Right now,
okay.
it's looking at, so what's kind of cool is I think Nathan's brain works differently than my brain, and it's in like the best way possible, because I don't know if I've ever met somebody that organized, but that can like talk about 10 different things and prioritize them, then list them all out. And one of the first things he asked me was like, who is this for? And in my head, I was like, for everyone, duh. But then he's like, no, seriously, we need to think about who the audience is. And then so it got me to go back and pull all the data and look at who had success in this program, and then who was kind of like, oh yeah, this is cool, but I want to be in the 60-minute class kind of thing. And so who this is for right now is we're trying to fill that gap between the white and the like early yellow leveled athletes. And it's interesting, we had somebody that commented on the Legion about that the other day,
right?
Just asking like, what do you do for these people that aren't necessarily in a white level yet? And I was just like, oh, here we go. So that would be who it's for. So with that in mind, having those 2 levels, there is obviously going to be room for the coach to kind of make a good call there on if somebody can do something a little bit more or whatever, that's fine. But primarily we're looking at 15 to 24 minutes of work, and then a warm up priming for that.
Yep.
And the warm up is usually fast paced and fun. And then the work is very, very fixed times. If it is a rounds for time situation, it's something that we've done repeatedly, and that we know that they're going to finish in this time frame, so it works. But we're looking at a lot of like alternating EMOMs, intervals, things like that, that kind of stuff. And so we're building out, stuff months ahead of time, but it's things that we've used in the past. It's things that we've got a lot of data on, and just building on that.
Yeah, you're coming to the table with a lot of experience and putting it kind of through the paces, and just reframing it into 2 levels for a new platform. So there won't be barbells in the programming, correct?
I don't have any barbells in the programming as of right now.
Okay.
It's not something that I think is for those types of people. If you look at the levels themselves, it would be very rare, unless you're in it's a strength situation that someone would need a barbell.
Right.
So if we're sticking to those like archetypes, they wouldn't be in those like high intensity situations.
Yeah.
But the movement patterns do flow into building a foundation for getting a barbell. So there are things like dumbbell hang cleans that a dumbbell snatch, you'd be surprised at someone in their level, like someone that's white, you'd be surprised at how quickly they could pick up a dumbbell snatch, things like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's as long as you're doing it the right way. And on that note, there's going to be resources for the coach that's running that program. We found that this was an awesome class to get a more green coach a lot of reps, get them in the trenches, get them almost feeling ownership of this class. while us being able to give oversight in a way that isn't like micromanaging, and the movement patterns, the rep schemes, those types of things. It's stuff that this coach was able to very confidently execute. Whereas maybe in that 60-minute class, there's just so many different variables. There's so much room for error.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about things like mountain climbers and kettlebell swings and step ups and shuttle runs and things like that, it's really hard for a coach to screw up a step up unless you tell them, hey, let's step up with your left leg, right leg in the air, and jump down on your left leg. But no one's going to do that.
Right. Okay. Unless they're like in step aerobics or something, which is not
Separate,
the
yeah.
case. So it's also a really good platform for new coaches to also ascend through the skill levels and
Absolutely.
get their, like you said, get their reps, which I think is incredible. Also learn how to interact with people, and you don't have to have as much endurance. Anybody who's coached for a while, that hour class, it can be a long time, and it can be
draining.
Very draining, and emotionally and physically draining, and you're always on. So I think that's a really cool element as well. So at 3Q, have you guys just done the one per day, the noon class, or did you find enough need to spread that out?
We've had different iterations of it. In the past we've done it at the satellite location and
right
here.
That's right.
But so it's just based on the need. And now we're looking at making this, like, for us, like an online deliverable for our people, that we're almost like losing for,
right.
They don't feel comfortable coming in the gym, and now having to do a full hour-long session via Zoom is not quite as fun, and everyone just wants to move and feel good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So so the class was at 12:30 at one point, and then we had another group that wanted to go at 10 a.m. So then we had a class at 10 a.m. And it's just super easy to plug and play. If I had to coach those sessions, it's something that there wasn't a ton of prep time needed, which was great. I already knew the program, obviously, but then it's just a really small snippet out of my day that I can still schedule intros, meetings, things like that, get my training in, all that good stuff. If you have a huge need for this would be like a great, like, on the hour thing. If you wanted to do like an 11 a.m. then a noon, get a little 30-minute break in between, where you can get 2 classes in the hour. And we kind of talked about it a minute ago, and you had reiterated it, but this is like an amazing class to give an intern coach that you have, or someone that got their L1 and they've been chomping at the bit to get to do something. Like, this would be something great to walk them through and let them own, because the room for error is just so small.
Yeah. And you can actually hone in on some of the skills that are teachable, like, having a great attitude, keeping the energy up, some of those things that you just kind of have to have running in the background while you are paying attention to really high level stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can get that down and make it natural, and then work on higher level coaching cues and watching, then you're kind of parsing out how you're delivering these. So that's really good. So why does level method and boot campish or level method Lite, why does it make sense to marry what you guys have been doing and what you're programming with level method?
I mean, I feel like if we saw a gap, and based off even like the post in the group the other day, like, if we saw a gap, I'm sure the gap is there. I'm sure everyone else kind of has that same need. And then with how 2020 has been rolling, I know that everyone's taken a hit at some point during their membership. So I think this is a great opportunity to maybe get some people back, give them an opt-in that isn't the same financial commitment, the same time commitment. You're able to say, look, because it's 30 minutes, we're able to clean before and after kind of situation. It's going to be a small crew at first, so you have the ability to, it's just, there's so many selling points for those people, because we all have maybe 30% of our gym that's still pretty nervous. But then using this as a stepping stone for getting people to your 60-minute class, it just made so much sense. When we did this before we had level method, it was just like, how do we get people sweating and moving? And then as we had level method, we were like, let's start integrating this We put level tests in there. I mean, there's
I think it's
multiple times that
brilliant.
we had,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's just, it was super successful. It's been really, really fun to see people that came in not being able to perform a lot of movements to now they know, like they're in our private groups and all those things on Facebook. So they see, testing phases, they see people's PRs on the board and stuff like that. And they're like, man, maybe and we'd start doing those things, knocking those things out. It was awesome. So before we had level method, that really wasn't the case. Cause it's like, yeah, you guys are in this class, you're in this 30-minute class and it is what it is. But now it's like, hey, you guys are in this class, but there's something else and we can progress to that.
Well, I love the idea that it almost ties the communities together. So if you're assessing in your Lite program, your 30-minute program, you are actually giving them a piece of what everyone else is doing. So there's something to talk about. There's something that brings them together. Also, when they are ready to move, they move to like a barbell class or their regular classic. They understand the levels and they'll be able to jump into that programming pretty quick. Especially if you're
Right.
getting people up in the oranges, obviously that's a great opportunity to move them into a regular class. So I think that's a really good marriage, because I think a lot of times gyms run these programs where we've got our 30-minute booty and we've got our CrossFit, and they're so separated. And
Yeah.
then they're like, how can I get my booty to my CrossFit because I make more money there, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
This is a natural ascension, like we mentioned earlier. And I really like that you do the assessments inside of there. So when you do an assessment inside of a boot camp or a 30-minute course, obviously you're probably just doing one for the day. Are you running it like level method testing, or are you kind of just telling them a level to do? Or are you letting them ascend as far as they can?
We let them ascend as far as they can. I mean, we did the 20 rep back squat test, and one of the
Awesome.
girls like ended up crushing it. She got to like blue 3.
Wow.
And then but they all had an account with level method. They all had their levels, and as we did those things, they slowly built them out, and that created this like sense of urgency to get all of them done, because we
Oh,
couldn't get all
cool.
of them done
Right.
in the 2 weeks. So then when the worldwide testing thing, when that phase came back, they all knew. And one of the girls, I think she followed level method on Instagram, but like saw it and like came in like, we're gonna do that in 3 weeks, right? And I
That's
just
awesome.
was like, so then it just kind of became like overwhelmingly the whole class like, yeah, we want to do this. So we extended their class to an hour, and we did that for 2 weeks, and that was just kind of our favor to them. Like, look, y'all been putting in the work. You want to see where you're at? Let's roll. Um, the other interesting thing too was marrying the two. It wasn't just an ascension up that happened. It was, we had our members that are on unlimited memberships that would have their lunch break open and want to get some extra cardio in and want to do some things. They'd send us a text, hey, can I drop in to that class today? We're like, you have an unlimited membership, like that's part of
Yeah.
membership, like let's roll. And so then we had people that actually bumped their membership up so they could do both a couple days a week.
Oh, that's a great
It was,
opportunity to monetize
yeah,
that as well.
it was
Yeah.
really interesting. So we saw our ACV raise a little bit while we did that.
Okay. Yeah. Average client value, for those of you who don't know what
Yeah,
ACV
sorry.
is.
Yeah.
I think most do. Yeah. So, and that's really the name of the game. We want to have opportunities as gym owners that people and gym operators, that people see something and you're not forcing them into it. They actually want to pay more because they see so much value in it. And that obviously has proven itself out inside the four walls at 3Q. So, what would be your advice to someone that's kind of on the fence, or they're kind of just playing around with this, or they may think, well, this is going to confuse people? I mean, let's speak to that. Like, any objections you can think of and overcome with your experience.
I think anytime you make a change in your gym, it has to be from the viewpoint of like 3Q Fitness is not a building. 3Q Fitness, like it's a person. Like we
Mm,
treat the gym as if it's a person. And so it becomes like, what does the gym need? And is there a gap that we need to fill? Is there a place that we're lacking? And if so, it's our job to kind of pivot and make sure the gym has what it needs. So what we did is, so for us, anytime we have 6 or more people in a program, for us, that makes sense for that time slot to start a program. So when I started my kids class, it was the same thing. If I could get 6 kiddos enrolled, that made sense for me to take a time slot, create a time slot, and now I have a kids class. So with this, it was the same thing. There were people that had a need, and we filled that need. Um, and it's so, like I've said it a bunch of times already, it's just so low risk. You
Yeah.
know, you're not committing to an hour. I see creating like a CrossFit class at 12:30. You're committing to, the coach needs to be there at noon if the class is at 12:30, and the coach needs to be aware that I almost use a specific number, but the coach needs to be aware that you know, John Doe is going to come in for his class 30 minutes early, but he's also going to have Friday off, and he's going to want to sit there and talk to you for 45 minutes. And
Right.
you have to be able to make that call and say, dude, like, I got to get back to work, and almost like disrupt this guy. So with your hour-long classes, you know, it's all in kind of how you present yourself. But a 30-minute class, it's, the coach needs to, if it's at 12:30, let's get there at 12 just in case they show up early, have to use the restroom, all that kind of stuff. But then the class is over at 1. This is like, hey guys, this was the lunchtime class. This is the hit it and quit it kind of class. You know, let's wipe our stuff down. You know, if you need a foam roll, you have your foam roll protocol. Make sure you hit that. If you get back to the office or before you go to bed tonight, you know, all those kinds of things. But they already knew the situation. So
Yeah.
for us, it was so awesome. I mean, it was so easy to keep scheduling things around that class. But our midday CrossFit class, it killed us. And we ended up getting rid of it so we could be more productive during the day.
Oh, that's
But
good. Yeah.
So.
Well, and I like another thing I want to step back to that you had mentioned was the, you know, if we have another closure or, you know, who knows what's going to happen, and you still have people at home. What we found was Zoom was tough. Most
Yeah.
gyms did not enjoy Zoom. And I think everybody would agree with you that you'll have a much more engagement with members if you give them a 30-minute workout or than if you gave them an hour workout. So I think it's a really great pivot to the home. And so you're like, hey, look, to be able to do this, you got to have something you can lift up and down. So you could probably get away with almost everything with a kettlebell or a dumbbell. And so,
Or backpack.
yeah, you're
You know?
absolutely. You're totally reducing equipment so you can do it at home. So you're setting yourself for success right out of the gates. If you run a program like this, it's set into place, and then you can just boom. If you're going to stay at home, this is your workout. I'll check in with you, log your results. Good job. And equipment, you're not parsing out all of your barbells everywhere, and you got 40 different workouts. This is just one workout that anybody can do in any circumstance. I mean, you can even use, you know, big cans of soup. I mean, there's or water bottle jugs. There's so many ways that you can do something like that at home. And when you're doing maybe a more high rep, lower weight type of thing, there's a lot more like kind of the cardio blast, right?
Right.
And people can relate to that a little bit more, and will stay more probably will stay more on track. I would think. So I think it's a really good thing to bring in place just in order to have that at the ready, which is something I hadn't thought of before. So what's been the biggest challenge in programming this, or has it not really been?
The biggest challenge in programming, I think anytime I program, it's not getting too excited about like, oh yeah, that's okay. That's a good flow. Oh, that would be so sick. Oh, you know, and then like, okay, and that's going to build on that. I just have to be like, okay, remember who this is for. Remember, you know, but then I start programming other things, and I'll be like, ooh, like my client that does PT, this would be a great thing for him too. And now I'm going to change some things and just going back and forth. So my mind works on 10 different topics at a time, but
Right.
what I'm learning from Nathan is this is the thing we're focusing on now. Focus on this, stay here. All this other stuff doesn't matter.
Right. I know. Yeah. Welcome to my world. So, it's, what can gyms that want to try this out, what can they expect? Well, hey, here's a question I have for you. Let's hold on that one.
Okay.
How do you make sure it's fun? And is that important to you?
It's super important. Every day is going to start with an icebreaker or a game or, you know, something. And, you know, it sounds so cheesy. It really does. But if you do it, it becomes the best part
Yeah,
of
I know.
anyone's class.
Yeah.
So one of my go-tos is either just like a grateful statement, or your glow and your grow. Like glow would be what's the good thing that happened to you over the weekend. Grow would be what's an area that you realize you need to grow in. And everyone just kind of goes around. But then like the other one is you're foam rolling, and it's like, okay, I need everyone to tell me when and where you had the best taco of your life.
That's
And you
awesome.
as the coach, I always go, okay, it was March 11th, 2008. I was a senior in high school, and it was at Torchy's Tacos. I'd never had the trashy trailer park before. I took that first bite, flavor explosion, and people are looking at you like, what a dork.
Yeah.
But if you kind of have that energy where y'all are all foam rolling together, getting ready for 12:30 kind of tick over, and then you're doing stuff like that, or playing a game. Like we play this game called Alligator, and I have tennis balls and stuff, and it's essentially dodgeball, but I'm pegging them with the balls, and they have to go from one end of the gym to the other without getting hit. They get hit, they have 3 burpees, and you've never seen like a 45-year-old man laugh harder than when he gets hit with a tennis ball, and he has to do 3 burpees in front of a bunch of people like, oh dang, haha, it's so great. And they're
Yeah.
like, so it's just like the first couple minutes, there's that, and I'll have that programmed in, and I have descriptions on how you need to like roll with it. I'll have other options you can sub in. And then there's just different reminders on like what the coach's mindset needs to be for that session, and how you need to like, come at the day, how you need to carry yourself. And
That's good.
I think those things, that's what we do here when we have new coaches. It's conversations we have all the time. It's notes that we make all the time. And so making that deliverable for this program, I think, is huge, because anyone can just put like an alternating imam on a piece of paper and shoot it out to you guys. But all the stuff beforehand, all the mindset stuff beforehand, all the focal points, I think that's going to be the game changer. So
Yeah.
if your coach is the most fun coach for 30 minutes in your city, like I promise you, like it's going to be the easiest thing for you to sell.
That's great. That's such a good mindset. And I love that you're going to provide that mindset information and like what a coach needs to bring to the table, because we sometimes assume that coaches know that. We sometimes assume that that's just part of their repertoire, which it's not. And it's not a natural thing for some people, and they do need to learn and have do the reps to get it and figure it out. So that's good. And I would assume that there's probably a certain type of coach that might match that environment a little better than some others. Probably the kind that's drawn to coach that is the right kind of person.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, you have to be able to be dorky. It's kind of like people ask me for years, how could you handle being a middle schooler? It's because I thought like one. I had a blast.
Yeah.
I had poop jokes and fart jokes, and and it didn't matter because I thought like one. So I think that it's really good to identify those things that a coach needs to have in their mindset before going into that. So that's really super exciting for me to hear that. So anything else that you want to add before we wrap this up? Anything else we might have not talked about?
I don't know. I think we covered everything pretty well. And this is exciting. It's an exciting phase for us to get to put this out there and get this rolling. And I think I guess what I can go through really quick is just kind of like rehash some benefits.
Yeah, let's do that.
I've been interviewing some of the people that have been in the class, and like the top 3 benefits that kind of came to mind were, I should have it already pulled up, but I'm blanking. But it was just that the time was convenient. Like time was super convenient. It was affordable, which was great. They saw progress, and they saw progress quickly. Like it wasn't something that just seemed random.
Right.
And then the community was one of the biggest things across the board too, that group became very tight knit and very supportive of each other, because the energy of the class was great. It was a fun class. It was just overwhelming positive, things, which was awesome. Not to like be like, we did it the perfect way.
We're
Haha.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it did have its struggles at first. I mean, it is one of those things that it was finding the right coach to do it. It was finding the right approach. It was making sure that we're not making it mini CrossFit, or it was making sure like no one wants to come in cold and now you have to do 20, 18, 15, 12, 9, 6, 3, or it would be 21, but like no one wants to do 16.5 cold. Like no one wants to do
Right.
that. That would suck.
Right.
And then benefits from the gym owner's perspective. The biggest thing is it's going to be added revenue. It's going to be very easy to just add revenue right off the bat in a time that we all need revenue. And then the time commitment is very minimal. And then I think the biggest thing for us is it's that, like we've talked about it before, but it's something that a newer coach can own, not just fill in and do, but it's someone in my head, it's me 4 or 5 years ago. You know, it's me like working with baseball players on the side. I have my few personal training clients. I'm maybe doing the Saturday class here and there. I want to start a kids program, and I want to be able to make money. But I'm more so, I just want reps at coaching.
Yeah.
And how do you give this kid reps? How do you get this kid, you know, in it without just saying, okay, kid, well, here's our Monday at 4:30 class. Good luck. It's 12 people, and you know, you're going to have to teach
alive.
Yeah. It's like you got a snatch complex today, and then you've got thrusters and burpees over the bar, and you got someone that's a white level and someone that's red. So have fun with that. And that can be super intimidating. I mean, we've all coached that class where you just sit up there and like, the thruster is the one where you squat and press. Have fun. And it's just, you know, but you have to be able to move to do this 30-minute class. It gives the coach no other option.
That's
like
awesome.
You've got to get in there and you've got to give cues. So I think it's going to be a super positive impact for anybody that wants to jump in and try it. And they might find that it's something that their people really, really gravitate to. So
yeah, I think so. I can see so many great merits for it. And honestly, I came in not knowing hardly anything about it today, so I feel really good about this. I feel okay. I'm digging this. This is really cool. And I want to just like wrap up by saying thank you. Thank you for having so much heart and commitment to it. I can tell it's inside of you, and it's an art and it's an outlet for you that is giving you a lot of joy. And I think that's going to equate to an incredible product. I think people would be crazy if they didn't notice that. And it's very relevant. And I do want to back up. I know this sounds mushy, but I want to give Robert props for his ability to raise up folks like you, see that potential and bring you in and raise you up, because I know that's what he does. He's incredible that way. Did not know he had a degree from MIT. That's another incredible thing. Now I'm going to have to call him some special name or something. I don't know.
Vice president of the Garland School Board, MIT graduate. Like the dude is a Renaissance man for sure.
He truly is. So thanks again for being with us. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on this amazing episode of the Level Method Chalk Talk. We will have an episode airing every week on Tuesdays. And this one will be out. Well, you won't know. You'll be listening to it. Well, so anyway, if you have a topic that you want to share or learn about, you need to reach out to me, scott@levelmethod.com. And if you have somebody that you think needs to be on, connect them with me, scott@levelmethod.com. We are here talking to business owners and gym owners and coaches, and listening to those folks talk about their own practices around Level Method and all things gym ownership. So thanks again, Justin, and make sure that you subscribe. As the way I see it, there should be about 600 subscribers at this point. So I'm going to look at those numbers, and I expect it to happen. Thank you.